Mr. McAleenan, you said that there are about 3,000 families in CBP custody every day. What percentage of these families came through the legal ports?
They came to the legal ports less than 5%.
So that means that the rest of them, for probably perfectly understandable reasons, because they're already at our border, they will cross illegally, subjecting them at the time to a zero-tolerance policy, which, by the way, had the effect of separating families. I don't think you can deny that. So most of the families coming through, and so the questions about, why can't we provide them, as you say, one of your goals is to provide safe and lawful access to asylum seekers. And to the extent that many of these are asylum seekers, we're certainly not meeting those goals.
So we're going to extraordinary lengths to provide safe and lawful access to asylum seekers. Again, 120% increase last year, 90% increase so far this year in applications at ports of entry.
But not when 95% of the families are not coming through the legal ports of entry. You also said that 80% of asylum seekers don't succeed in their asylum claims. What percentage of the 80% had lawyers?
So that would be a great question for DOJ and EOIR. I just want to clarify, Senator, that the folks coming across illegally are in the hands of smugglers from very early in their journey. They're not making a decision to come to the port or not. They made a decision to pay that smuggler. So it's not a situation where they're waiting and then
smugglers
diverting.
not to, okay.
Yes.
Well, I don't, there
The
must
smugglers
be a way to
control
try
where they cross.
and address that, because I would say that for people who undergo this kind of arduous journeys, and I would say that to blame the parents for risking their lives and that of their children to come to a country that they hope will provide them with better opportunities, to blame the parents is really an awesome kind of a statement to make, because I think we should acknowledge that parents everywhere want to protect their children. So I think we should acknowledge that. Now, the 80% of asylum seekers who don't succeed, I think a majority of them do not have lawyers, because there's evidence that when they have lawyers, that they increase their chances of succeeding in their asylum claims by many, many times over. Sometimes 5 times more, 3 times more, many times more. So they have legitimate asylum claims, but if you don't have a lawyer and you don't speak the language, it makes it mighty tough to succeed in your asylum claim. I think that that is something that we should all acknowledge. It's bad enough that when they make the arduous and dangerous journey that these migrants are subjected to sexual abuse and assault, but they certainly shouldn't have to experience those kinds of conditions while they are totally within our custody. And so you were told that there have been thousands of allegations of sexual abuse and assault while they are in our custody. And I think you said that you didn't think that that was particularly within your purview at your agency, but we know that CBP, ICE, HHS, DOJ, they all have a role to play in what happens to these migrants. So is there an integrated or coordinated response to sexual abuse and assault while these people are in our government's custody? Because as far as these migrants are concerned, it doesn't matter that they're in CBP, ICE, HHS, or DOJ. They're within government custody. Is there an interagency coordinated response with respect to just the question of sexual abuse and assault while they are in our custody?
I can speak for CBP and DHS. There absolutely is a focus on protecting people in our custody and certainly protecting them from sexual abuse. It is unacceptable. It is overseen by our Office of Professional Responsibility and the DHS IG. In terms of an interagency approach, I would ask HHS for their approach and how they govern people in their care.
Well, considering that yours is the first agency that these migrants encounter, you could take the lead in asking for this kind of a coordinated approach. And as for the other agencies, if they have such they have had policies, I think you were asked, or Senator Harris asked to see those policies. And if your agency has a policy, I would like to reiterate that request.
I'm happy to share it with you as well, Senator. And again, allegations of this nature in CBP custody are extraordinarily rare.
Sorry, I'm running out of time. Let's talk about the wall. When you came before this committee last December, you told me that it's your agency that developed the president's plan for the border wall with 1,100 miles of physical barriers. He wasn't talking about physical barriers. He wanted a wall. I asked you to submit for the record a copy of the plans and provide details about how many of those 1,100 miles are on land that is currently in control of the federal government, and you did not respond to any of this committee's questions for the record, so I hope you're prepared to answer these questions today. How many of the 1,100 miles of wall are in federal government's control?
Okay, so what we're asking for within the Border Security Improvement Plan, the top 17 priorities, about 700 miles total. About 316 of that is new additional primary miles on land that's not currently owned by the federal government. So that's mostly in Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, in South Texas. Some of that will go up into Laredo, some of it in El Paso. And so those are the areas where we would need to work with property owners through a process to pay fair market value to acquire that land.
Well, you must be aware that the Bush administration spent 7 years litigating and negotiating to build border fencing on a quarter acre of land. That's 0.0004 square miles. And right now, the Trump administration is in a lawsuit with the Catholic Church in Texas because the administration is looking to take the church's land to build a border wall. And the church has argued that, quote, the proposed border wall is fundamentally inconsistent with Catholic values and, if completed, would substantially burden the free exercise of religion by restricting access to La Lumenta Chapel. So considering that a lot of the, maybe half, 1/3 of the land that you're going to need to build this wall is not even in your hands. We're looking at a pretty long period of time where if the Texas ranchers don't want to give up their land, you're going to be in litigation. So did you allocate any of the time and the money that you would have to spend to deal with these kinds of challenges, to getting their land?
Certainly, part of the cost of constructing the wall involves the real estate planning, the purchasing, engaging landowners, and where we can't determine who owns the land or there's a landowner concern, litigation. I just want to clarify that 7 years of litigation did not delay the actual construction of the land, of the wall. We can acquire that land and proceed with building during the litigation. And the vast majority of landowners are providing rights of entry. We're able to reach a fair market value settlement to pay for that land and to move forward. So litigation is an important part of land acquisition, but it's not. It doesn't delay the project for years.
I see. So these landowners are allowing you to take the land before you figure out how much you need to pay them?
Federal law does.
Access?
And often it's really just trying to find out who owns the land is the main issue in litigation.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Can you submit for the committee the plans, and if you have the actual list of landowners who would be affected?
So
Other
for
plans?
each new segment, those landowners are researched, but yes, we can absolutely submit our plans, our process,
Okay, when
our
can you
FY19.
submit these items? Because I asked you this in December, and here we are in March.
We've already provided it to the Senate, but I'd be happy to redirect it to this committee and make sure that you have the copy.
Thank you very much, especially as I requested that information and it didn't come to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.